podcast and YouTube channel. Today is a very, very special day. It is Game 3, the second day of the 2023 College Baseball World Series at the fabulous Charles Schwab Field in the middle of America, Omaha, Nebraska. This is a day in which we will be seeing two teams, the Stanford Cardinals representing the Pac-12 versus the number one team in the nation, the number one seed, winners of the 1955 College World Series, the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. But before we get to that, we're going to take a ride back in the Wayback Machine, or as my friend Dave Weatherman, to the right, looking at your screen, he would say, a blast from the past. These are two members, Frank Ferroni on the left, and to his right, or to his left, on the right on the screen, Dave Weatherman, members of the 1979 Cal State Fullerton national champion baseball team that changed the paradigm of college baseball. Prior to 1979, college baseball essentially was USC and maybe Arizona State and Texas, and there wasn't much else. Over the previous 15 years, USC had won 5 titles in a row. They had won the previous year. In '79, new teams emerged out of California, Cal State Fullerton, and their rival from the Southern California Baseball Association, the Pepperdine Waves. Fullerton won the title, beating Arkansas 2-1 in the title game. Now we're going to get to the details of that, and it's not going to be me who's going to tell you those details. But let's start with Frank Ferroni on your left on the screen. Mr. Ferroni was my teammate at Redwood High School in Marin County in Northern California. And just to give you a little bit of background on that, the team was coached by a legendary coach named Al Endress, and at the end of the 1970s, the Sporting News, the Bible of baseball, named Redwood High the high school program of the decade in the 1970s. This man you're looking at was the greatest high school pitcher these eyes have ever seen. 17-1, 1.90 earned run average, 190 strikeouts in 80 innings. I'm told that was third most strikeouts in a single season by a high school pitcher ever in high school up until that time. Frank, welcome to Go the Distance with Steve Travers. How are you doing today?
Doing great, thank you, Steve.
Having a good time here in Omaha?
Loving it.
Fabulous. All right, now here's what I'm going to get at, Frank. You went to Cal State Fullerton. You were the number one pick in the secondary phase of the '77 draft, and you end up at Cal State Fullerton. There were a lot of schools you could have gone to. Tell me the process. You were drafted first by the Giants. Tell me about coming out of Redwood High and how you ended up at Cal State Fullerton.
I went to junior college out of Redwood, Central Arizona. Followed Coach Endress' son. He was my teammate. They had won the 1976 National Junior College Championship. I went there because I wanted to get back in the draft without going to a university at first. Played there, 77 season, had a pretty good year. Drafted in January by Cleveland in the first round. Forego that draft. Then I was drafted number 1 by Minnesota. Offer was so-so. My high school coach, Coach Endress, was friends with Augie Garrido, the Cal State Fullerton head coach. He asked me if I'd be interested. I took a recruiting trip. Loved Augie from day one and decided to go to school there.
Now, at that time, Fullerton recruited almost entirely in Southern California, and in fact, mostly from Orange County and maybe Long Beach and Torrance. And they really didn't recruit nationally. You were one of the first players to come to the Titans from Northern California. Talk a little bit about what Augie Garrido said to you, and perhaps the influence of Al Endress, who had coached in Vallejo, California, where Augie grew up. How that influenced your decision, or perhaps Augie Garrido's decision, to dip into the Bay Area to get some talent?
Well, it stemmed from Al Endress' relationship with Augie. He had told him about me. Augie was interested. And as soon as I met Augie and I talked to him, had a good feel about it. You know, everybody talked about beating everybody else. Augie knew we were right there. We were ready. We programmed, ready to bust the whole scene open, and that's exactly what we did.
All right. Well, Frank Ferroni, thank you very much for being a guest, actually our first guest for an upcoming podcast called Go the Distance, which gets its name from another Cal State Fullerton Titan, Kevin Costner, who went to Cal State Fullerton and is a good friend of Augie Garrido's. So now we're going to switch focus. This is Dave Weatherman. He's on the right on your screen. Dave Weatherman was Frank Ferroni's lifelong friend. All right. We're back in business with Blue Star with Dave Weatherman, star of the Cal State Fullerton Titans. Welcome, Dave, to Go the Distance with your host, Steve Travers. How are you doing today in Omaha?
Doing wonderful, Steve. Doing wonderful. Beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day, and it's great to have you here. Okay, now, I'm not going to describe what you did at Fullerton, but it was epic and it was great. I'm going to let you talk about it. But I'm just going to say before we get started, we have Frank Ferroni here. Frank, Dave, and I are lifelong friends. I've known Frank since 1975, Dave since 1978. Dave and I were in the A's organization together in 1982. Both played at Idaho Falls of the Pioneer League, where Jose Canseco was in his first year in baseball. But we're not going to get into that right now. Today is a day about college baseball. Now, okay, Dave, you come out of West High School in Torrance, California. I've seen your high school statistics. You are an outstanding high school pitcher. Most kids in those days, they wanted to play for the Trojans or maybe Arizona State. Tell us how you end up as a freshman at Cal State Fullerton with Augie Garrido.
Well, you're right. I did want to go to USC. I got offered partial scholarship there. It wasn't good enough for me. I didn't want to go in where I didn't feel I was wanted without a full ride. I felt that's what I deserved. So I didn't get that full ride to SC, so I decided not to go there. It was between Fullerton and Pepperdine. That pretty much all changed once I met Augie Garrido and I listened to Augie and what he was selling in terms of a program and what we could accomplish, etc. I thought he was a guy that could make it happen for me, and as it turns out, it was.
Well, he certainly was. Now, in the fall of 1978, I was a junior college pitcher at Santa Monica College. I pitched against that Fullerton team in a fall ball game, and I don't think I have ever seen guys swing the bat like that in my life. There were a lot of good hitters. They had a player named Tim Wallach who hit one off me, hit it off the side of Saddleback Mountain. Tell me what kind of a ball player Tim Wallach was, later a major leaguer with the Expos and the Dodgers.
Timmy is just, and he still is, very unassuming, very humble guy, just very talented. And he came to us out of Saddleback and was really not a home run hitter. He got in with Augie and Jody Robinson, and they started working on different aspects of hitting. And next thing you know, he's drafted by the Angels after junior season, came back senior season when we won the national championship. Hit 18 homers a junior year, 20-some homers a senior year. Next thing you know, he's number one pick with Montreal and has an epic career. Played 18 years in the major leagues. So, and it's still the same humble guy.
So, in 1978, as I mentioned, I'm at Santa Monica College. The two best known pitchers in college baseball at that time are Tim Leary of UCLA, Bill Bordley of the University of Southern California. I decide I want to go see Tim Leary pitch for UCLA. So I get a ticket and I go to the game, and somehow I made a mistake. It wasn't Tim Leary, it was Dave Schmidt, who later pitched in the major leagues for the Texas Rangers. I'm watching the game. Schmidt's throwing BBs, knocking down his opponents, who were Cal State Fullerton Titans. And there's this guy pitching for Fullerton. He's not very tall. He doesn't throw all that hard, but he's got good control. He's got a slider. He's hitting the corners. Fullerton manages to tag a run on Schmidt, takes a 1-0 lead, and this guy keeps throwing shutout inning after shutout inning. And next thing you know, Fullerton has won the game 1-0. That pitcher was you, Dave Weatherman. Tell me a little bit about that game against Dave Schmidt and the Bruins.
I wasn't even supposed to pitch. It was the second game of a doubleheader. The gentleman at the first game, if you were there for both, went extras, and the guy who was going to start the second game came in relief in the first game, and we ended up losing on a home run in the 11th or 12th, I don't recall. And so I was, Weatherman, you're starting. So I didn't really have any time to rethink it, get in my own head, if you will, and went down, started to warm up, and 7 innings later, I got the win. Pretty much what you said, yeah.
All right, now let's fast forward. It's 1979. You're a sophomore. I'll give you the essentials. Dave Weatherman, 15-1, All-American, one of the best pitchers in collegiate baseball. Cal State Fullerton. At some point in that season, Dave, were you guys ranked number 1 or close to it?
Yes, we were ranked. At one point, we climbed up to 2, and back then you didn't play on Sundays. And University of Hawaii with Derek Tatsuna was ranked number 1, and they came to the mainland. We played them on a Sunday at Fullerton, and we ended up beating Tatsuna. It was the only loss he had all year. He was 20-1, and we beat him, and that thrust us into the number 1 spot, which I think we held pretty much. We were off and on the rest of that season.
Okay, so let's get one thing perfectly clear. The Titans, even though a lot of people didn't know who you were before that season, it was not a surprise that you were a team that looked, if not favored to win in '79, certainly was an absolute contender. They had gone there in '75 and had made it again with you in '79. All right, now you take it from here. Tell us about your first start. Well, first of all, okay, you guys lose the opener. And this is very difficult in those days. If you lose the opener, it puts you into the loser's bracket. It's not like it is today. You really got to fight your way back. You then get your first start in the series. Tell me about that.
Well, to your point, it's back then we played 6 straight consecutive days. So we lost the first game to Mississippi State. We came back the next morning. That was an evening game. We came back the next morning, played Connecticut, which was my start, and we ended up getting that one 8-3. And then we were in the losers bracket the rest of the way, as you stated, until we just worked our way up, and we played every single day to get to that championship game, which they don't do today. They have built-in days off. Much easier on staffs than today.
All right, tell me about your second start in the College World Series.
Second start wasn't too good. I had the semifinal game. I pitched against Pepperdine, and it's the end of the year. You're not feeling good. Nobody's feeling good. You're all banged up for the year. Anyhow, I didn't get out of the first inning. I think I gave up 3 runs in a third of an inning or 2/3 of an inning, and got hooked. And I wasn't real happy. Obviously, I thought I cost Cal State Fullerton the national championship, or at least a chance at it. So I was down in the clubhouse, beating things up, trying to tear things off walls, as you can imagine. Yeah, it was not a very good first. So, anyhow, that was my second start. Yeah. You want me to roll right into the third start?
Well, okay, yeah. Well, let me just preface.
Okay.
You you think you have blown it for your team, but your team rallies, saves the day for Dave Weatherman, comes back and wins the game. But you don't think you're going to be pitching. You think your season is over. You and our friend Frank Ferroni, if I heard my facts right, go out and have a few cocktails that night. So you basically figure you're going to be a spectator.
That story has grown over the years, but here's exactly what happened.
Okay. Take it from here.
So I came up in about the 7th inning. I was downstairs in the club until then, and I hear cheers, and we come back, and we end up winning. So I'm up above celebrating with my teammates, thinking, "Hey, because we're going to the final game." Fantastic, right? That's what we were there for. So I think my series is over because I just pitched. And Augie walks down. Never forget it. It's like, "Hey, you need to get some rest." Why? You're throwing the ball. Wow. I'm kind of shocked, actually. So you just get knocked out of the first inning. You have all night to think about it and all day because it's an evening game. So you know how that goes as a pitcher, Steve. It gets in your head. So obviously I didn't sleep real well, and so So as we were going back, Frank was my roommate. As we were going back, he said, "Hey, you always pitch better with a hanger." And I can't argue that. So he goes, "My recommendation is we go have a couple of beers." I said, "Okay." Now we didn't stay out long. We had a couple pitches with our hamburgers across the street, and that was it. It's got blown out.
It's not out of control.
It was not by any means. We were just having.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, I needed to because
you did.
It's grown out of proportion throughout the years. So anyhow, I still didn't sleep worth a damn, and so the next day, obviously, we had the championship game. So so that was the night before. That's how we found out about it. Next day, actually, it was a cold day. The wind was blowing in, and it's overcast and cold. Great pitcher's day. It was so cold, in fact, I'm wearing woolies. I had long sleeves on.
Wow. Considering how hot it is right now, it's the same time of year. It's hard to believe.
It's unheard of, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, we didn't even fill the stadium because of the bad weather. And so anyhow, I still wasn't feeling well from the day before. In fact, the first 4 innings, I would go down in between innings, and I would go down into the clubhouse, and I would have my hand on the shower head, and the trainer would milk my arm and try and just get the bad blood out of there. So for the first 4 innings, I did that. And then I gave up a run in the 5th, and for some reason, at that point in time, I don't know why. You know how they talk about being in the zone, but I was so ticked off that I gave up a run that I came in and
all right, fans,
I wasn't focused on it. I was more focused on what was going on in the field. Arm didn't bother me anymore. I never went downstairs again. We came back and got a run in the bottom of the 5th to tie it up. I shut him down in the 6th. We scored in the bottom of the 6th. Now it's 2-1, and I basically shut him out from there. So it was
ready to go, and how
it was surreal. It was cool. Biggest night of my life.
A complete game, 2-1 victory over the Arkansas Razorbacks, a team that had 2 future big leaguers, Johnny Ray and Kevin McReynolds. A national championship for Augie Garrido and Cal State Fullerton. Fullerton, since then, has won 3 more. They have 4 national titles, 1984, 1995, 2004. They've written themselves into the glory annals of college baseball history. The man you're looking at, Dave Weatherman, is one of the early bellwethers of Titan baseball, who led this program from nowhere to greatness. Dave Weatherman and Frank Ferroni, I want to thank you very much for being guests on Go the Distance with Steve Travers, our podcast. Can't wait to get this edited and up and running. Thank you, and God bless you for being a part of this and for being a part of my weekend.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Dave. God bless you. Bye-bye.